Hello everybody and welcome back. It is good to talk to all of you again today, and today I am going to do a Navyfield beginner's guide. And this mostly is because last time I made a Navyfield video and I had a lot of questions about both the game in its current state as well as from people who want to try it, and they went in and they said I've not really any clue what I'm doing. So this is going to be a beginner's guide. It's going to sort of explain some things you got to watch out for and things you got to be aware of. So that's one thing. On a side note, Navyfield right now, in terms of high-level players, there's still enough of them to run high-level battles, but for a lot of people to start the game, there's not a lot of low-level battles happening in a game mode called Blitzkrieg. So what I think is most likely going to happen, and for those of you who are interested, is that I'm probably going to run like evening raids into Navyfield with my Discord community. So you get maybe like 20 people on Navyfield just playing Blitzkrieg battles and just giving people an experience of like the low tier rooms where you're not getting instant nuked by really high level battleships, and just to get a way to play sort of fun Navyfield games with small ships. Again, if you want a Discord link, that's either in the video description and it's also coming up on your screen now. So come and join us, and we're probably going to do this like maybe once or twice a week. Second, I am going to preface this video with a couple of things. One, it is a very old game, like really old, and it does have its share of technical issues. So if the game works 80% of the time, that's going to be pretty much good enough. You are going to deal with crashes, you are going to deal with some of these things that are unfortunately going to happen because this is such an old game. Second, I am going to try to keep things as free to play as possible. Now, there are pay to win elements in this game, and unfortunately that is mostly because of decisions made by the developers in the past. However, if you keep your eye out, they are trying to make changes. So for example, premium items used to be something you have to buy. Apparently in the next little while they're going to do it so that if you play battles you have a chance to earn premium items, and they happen to do that during events as well. If you play during events, you do get premium item drops, so there's not really a rush to go and maybe buy things right away. So aside from that, I'm just going to sort of describe how Navyfield is as a game in the briefest, most general terms. As a person who used to play Navyfield, the best way I can describe her is that she is a little bit like that ex-girlfriend that, on certain days you reminisce about all the good things about her, and then you go and you think about it in a lot more detail, and you sort of remember some of the things that you really didn't like, and was probably the reason why you left her for a better game in the first place. Anyways, okay, I digress. Alright, so this is what happens when you first register. Like, brand new account, you first register, and this is what you get, right? This is the screen you'll see. Now, you'll notice at the bottom here, these are your sailors, and they're all level 1. And they're all in yellow, too. These yellow names mean that these sailors are not tradable, but that's not really going to matter because they're going to disable the trading system soon enough. So, in terms of sailors, at the beginning, you're going to get an operator. This is going to be your captain, and he's going to be the one that you're going to class into a bridge operator and then select all the ships you want in the tech tree. Again, tech tree is a line, right? And you can only operate all the ships on that line, and if you want to operate ships on other lines, you need another captain. Keep that in mind. Usually, if you're going to play any nation, you want to have at least 2 bridge operators so you can pick the ships in the other line as well. And it's actually a good thing too, because it'll help with leveling all of your other stuff. Right now you have 2 gunners. They're both 12 base, so you'll see accuracy 12, reloading 12. These are base 12 gunners. They're very good gunners actually. Yes, you can have elite gunners, but those are all premium. But 12 gunners are fine. You're able to reach cap and your guns are going to be performing fine. I mean, hell, I have 11 gunners and they do perfectly fine as well. So 12, fantastic. You also have 2 pairs of AA gunners. These guys are okay. They have a good reload stat. The AAW, by the way, very interesting thing about that AAW stat. A lot of people look at the AAW stat and go, oh, the AA stat's fine. Not really. That AAW stat actually affects only the automatic AA guns, which, it works during the lower levels, but once you get to the really high levels, that AAW stat doesn't do anything. So really, these AA gunners are, how do I say them? They're all right. I mean, the really big issue for them is that 9 accuracy. You really want to have them better. So, you can use them, but they're not ideal, is what I'm going to say. Then you have a repair sailor, 12 stat on the repair, 10 on restore. This guy's fine. You should keep him. Restore sailor, absolutely worthless. Dismiss him right away. Oh, and I can't show you this. So, cut. Okay, sailor's been dismissed. There we go. All right, so we got rid of the restore guy. He's useless. Doesn't really do anything for you. If you just have enough repair and engine sailors, you're going to get your restore capability up to cap anyway, so that's fine. And you have this one engineer who's got base 12 engine. He's also pretty darn good, so no need to get rid of him. And you have your one scout. Okay, so out of the total crew of any one ship, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 8 guys in total. Now, if you look at the higher level ships, you're going to need 1 bridge operator, 2 main gunners, either 2 AA gunners or 2 additional support sailors. Now, by the way, support sailors are repair engine sailors, right? These guys are considered support. And you're probably going to need probably 3 to 4 repairs and 4 engineers, I would say. It would be your number. Maybe 4 to 5 engineers, depending on how you pick the repair to engineer ratio. So that means if you look at this, you don't have enough repair and you don't have enough engine sailors. So here is the first really annoying part of the game, like I mentioned, right? It's kind of like that ex-girlfriend syndrome. When you don't think about it, you remember the good things, and then you think about it and you're just like, oh, man, you need the patience of a saint to deal with this, because this is kind of what you got to do if you don't want to pay for anything. You see this button down here that says new? You got to click this new button, and then you got to click roll dice until you hit on that 12 stat for repair and engine. Now, if you're looking for potential, which is the bridge operator stat, you want 15. So you're going to be here for a while, right? You're going to be clicking through this for a while. And I wasn't kidding when I said you needed the patience of a saint to get yourself to the proper base 12 sailor. Oh, I mean, there's 14 potential. He's okay. But again, you want perfect stat. You want to go 15, right? So anyways, click through and eventually get yourself a good number of sailors. Another thing to talk about is how do you class sailors. So once a sailor reaches level 12, you can class them by picking a nation and picking a job for them. So here I've got a slightly higher level neutral sailor, and I'm just going to treat him as a bit of a throwaway. So I'm going to class him, right? So I'm going to click the class button, and then I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to pick one of the nations that the sailor is going to belong to. I'll sort of go over each of the nations a little bit later. So let's say I want to make him into Italian. So I click on that, click Italian, and now he's an Italian sailor. Now, once I've done that, I have to class him one more time and pick specific jobs. So here, if I pick an armament sailor, he's going to be able to use weapons. If I click something like special force, for example, that will be later on, I'm going to turn him into a pilot. And support sailor, of course, for repair and engineer. So I'm going to pick, his job later on. I'm just going to pick bridge operator in this particular case because I want to show you how you can end up picking ships. So, all right, off you go. I'm going to pick as him as a bridge operator, and then you'll see a new button pop up called ship. And ship is where you get access to the tech tree, right? And so what happens is my current ship is, let's say, a neutral destroyer, so I get to pick my first national destroyer at level 12. So in this case, it is this particular Italian destroyer, so I'll click that, click OK. It says, are you sure you wish to set this ship as your next ship? And I said, yes. Okay, good. Now, you'll see that the line here splits between the turbine and the navigatori, right? These two destroyers. I can only pick one of these. If I say I'm going to go with the turbine, then I have to, like that captain cannot operate the navigatori. If I choose this one, he's not going to operate this. Now, this, of course, has a lot more ramifications later on, because if you start picking ships further and further on, you'll notice that there's line splits. And basically, whichever line you pick, your bridge operator is going to be able to operate any ship along that line. However, other lines, that's not going to happen. So, for example, if I went from, let's say, the Leone to Navigatori to the Oriani, the Soldati, etc., and I go down this particular cruiser line to the bottom here, and I go this line, and I eventually move into, let's say, this battleship right here. So if I move to the Conte di Cavour, this battleship line, I will not have the ability to operate this battleship, right, or this battleship. So, whichever line you choose, that's going to be the ships that you're going to be able to stick with. Although there are at times later on where the lines converge again. Also keep in mind that some ships, like for example on the Italian line, the Conte di Cavour or the Cao Duilio, these ships later on, they're going to be able to have remodels. So basically you're going to be able to modernize them to the more modern variants of the ships, except they're going to be at a higher level. So do keep that in mind. One last thing to talk about when it comes to sailors is where do you want to get them to eventually? And for most sort of standard gameplay purposes, what you want to do with your sailors is to fully vet them, expert them, and boost them when what you will see as BVE in the game. That's the acronym. So what does that actually entail? Well, if you take a look at the sailor by pressing the RCT button, you'll notice that your sailors start off with some recruits, but no experts and no veterans. Now, experts you can gain in-game relatively slowly, but I mean, if you like shoot down aircraft and whatnot, you can slowly start to gain experts. Veterans, however, you can only gain by converting experts, and it's a little bit of an RNG role there. Still, the chances to get your first 100 veterans is basically where you should stop, is still okay. However, if you want a shortcut, and this is where that paying aspect begins, you obviously can buy items to boost them and all that, right? Especially the boost. The boost you actually can't get in-game. You have to either buy them or earn them during events. And boosts, basically, they increase ability by 20%. So something like the boost you'll try to earn during events. Expert here, there's the Expert plus 100 pack and the Veteran plus 10. And you'll notice here it says that if you get up to about 100, that's pretty much where this item will stop working. And pretty much if you get 100 vets and a bunch of experts, you'll be okay. The reason why I really wasn't a huge fan of Navyfield's, this whole crew system is that it was okay for me, in my mind, for them to charge you for it, but the problem was they implemented the idea that you could actually have them die on you, which is just like, what the hell, guys? Like I said, there were some bad decisions made by the developers before. Although there was a way to dodge the crew death, so one of the ways to dodge it was essentially that, and this is going to sound absolutely hilarious, again, just to show you kind of these games, like way back, how they had these loopholes. Basically, if you lost, like a veteran or something like that, it'll tell you in a little pop-up message in battle that, like, you lost X amount of, officers and stuff like that. And when that happened, what you could do is you could just Control-Alt-Delete and terminate the game, and you'll load back up into the port, and you wouldn't have lost those sailors. And that still works. So, hey, if you do it and you lose guys, just Control-Alt-Delete and terminate the process. Do make sure you do it before the game ends, though. If it ends, then it'll actually carry over. Of course, now they also have apparently items to get you past that 100 cap barrier. But I mean, this is really for like if you want to like super vet your crews and really turn them into something a little bit more godlike, but not really all that necessary, as long as you have BVE, your crew, they're going to perform reasonably well. With the crew all done, you click new and you buy your first ship. And so this is going to be the first little frigate that you get. Now, as you can tell, crew spaces, not that many, right? Only enough for the operator, a gunner, another gunner, and potentially one of your support sailors. And that's it. That's all you're going to have space for on your, for your crew. In terms of everything else that you see here, there's a couple of important things on this side to keep your eye open for. In terms of armor, anytime you get a new ship, with the meta that's evolved the way it is, aside from Royal Navy, not many other nations are going to get much in terms of armor protection. You're probably just going to run them with 0 armor and go for like max speed. The only thing you probably want to do is get 0.2 inches of belt armor, because this 0.2 inches of belt armor nullifies torpedo damage by half. So always make sure to go 0.2 on the belt armor. The other thing that's really important is this thing called defense power here. Now, right now, you'll see that my defense power reads basically 0. That means I have 0 in terms of soft defense. This number can go up to 900. When you get up to 900, that means you have 90% damage absorption capability. So that number will increase as your support sailors and stuff get better. So, you'll see that number going up. Then, of course, you have FCS. FCS, at the beginning, when you first start, you can try to play with auto. Auto is very, very beginner-friendly. You just click and press spacebar to pretty much shoot your guns at a point. Of course, later on, when you are more experienced or whatnot, you're going to want to change to this particular thing called aiming. Aiming is the manual aim. FCS, and this will require you to actually manually aim your guns, and I'll show you how to do that in a little while. Finally, you have engine. And you can change your engine, although at the beginning here you'll see that I pretty much don't have any choices. I've already got the best engine equipped. But later on you're going to see some ships with like a huge ton of, sort of picks. And what you're really looking for is basically the engine with the highest horsepower. And once you see the engine with the highest horsepower, then you want to take a look at something like the overheat endurance time and things like that. And you want to get the one that provides you with essentially the highest overheat speed, which is the second speed that you see listed to the side over there. Okay, and finally there's some more information that's really, really important as well. If you go down here, click the ship button here, you'll notice this is where you can load ammo and all that kind of fancy stuff. So a couple important things. First of all, you have this guideline and max gun number. Guideline is the actual gun lines, the limits of, how far your gun lines can go. And then you have your max gun, and max gun is the max range of your guns. Now, right now, you'll see that my guideline is actually longer than my max gun, which means that I will be able to always see where my shells land. Somewhere probably in like the level, I would say maybe 40s to about maybe 60-ish, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit more, maybe to level 70. You'll have a situation where your guidelines are actually shorter than your max gun range. In which case, if you try to fire your guns at max range, even though the shells will get there, you won't be able to spot them because your captain doesn't have enough ability to see those shells. Although by late game, you have sort of the opposite problem where your guidelines are way too long, and to get them to have, the end of your guidelines be exactly where your max gun range is, you actually have to trim away some of the potential ability on your captain by getting rid of some rookies. But that's the thing for a later time. Other things to keep in mind that's important: repair rate. As your repair sailors level up and become better, this repair rate will increase. That means that will allow you to repair faster. That has a direct relation to how much soft defense and damage you can actually repair. That has a relationship as well. Although, again, that's a little bit more advanced, so we'll leave that for maybe some other video in the future. And finally, of course, the overheat time. This is how long you're able to obtain this maximum overheat speed over here. Once, of course, your overheat speed timer runs out, you go back to your cruising speed. And then, of course, want to talk about one last thing, or I guess two more things, and it has to do with your main guns. Take a look at the space of the gun slots, right? On this frigate, there's 26 space. Now, if I want to install a gun, this gun has 11 space, so that means I can install the gun and pack ammo for that gun. Later on, you might look at a gun and be like, oh, that's a really nice gun, I want it, and you put the gun on, but you notice that you actually can't put any ammo. Now, take a look carefully at that gun space and the space of the slot that you have, and you might notice that what happened is, while the gun fits, no ammo can fit because there's not a lot of space left over. So, do make sure those things fit. And of course, if you want help with this kind of stuff, you can always come on the Discord and ask any of the people who used to play Navyfield, and we'll be happy to answer. One other thing with ammo, load HE light. Since range is life in Navyfield, you want to have max possible range, and since most ships in the game don't have armor, with a few exceptions of Royal Navy ships, and even then you have to be very sort of attentive at the speed at which the ship moves, which will tell you whether they have armor or not. You're going to be firing HE shells at everything. So pack HE light, max range, max life. Although you can pack like one bind of armor piercing, but for this frigate, I actually don't have a second ammo locker, so for now I'm still going to be stuck with HE light. So off we go into battle, and I'll show you how this whole gun control thing works, both auto and manual. Alright, so here we have the I guess the automatic aiming system. Super easy. With the automatic aiming system, you basically just click your mouse and your guns will head to that place that you clicked, and they will elevate automatically, which you will see here. Bottom left hand corner, you'll see what angle those guns are at, etc. Although, do keep in mind at the beginning, when you first start the game, you'll see a very zoomed up view. So zoom out by using your mouse wheel, zoom up, and again, like I said, you can click on a ship, or click on wherever the ship might be in terms of leading, whatever, and you just basically, you press the spacebar, and, actually that failed. There you go, and you can basically do damage. It is really, really simple. The automatic FCS is like really, really basic and very easy to understand. You might notice that the guns actually are moving very, very slowly, and you'd just be like, how can such a fast-paced game have such a slow turret traverse? Well, that's probably because you haven't turned on this turret drive assist down here at the bottom right-hand corner. So flick that switch and turn it to on, and you'll notice that your guns turn very, very quickly. You can also press the control key on your keyboard to activate this function. Alright, so if you want your ship to go forward, you press F. So press F to go forward, and of course the speed dial, once you enter red, that's your overheat, and you'll notice that the green bar goes away. But then, of course, it'll go back to the cruising speed when it runs out. If you want to stop or slow down, hold down the V key, and you will drop your speed down to nothing. And then, of course, you know, with the auto FCS, just point your mouse, get your guns to where they want to go, and fire away. There you go. Does take a little bit of adjustment there. Whoop. My bad. Still not a huge fan of automatic fire control system in this game, mostly because you'll notice that the lines, they can't cross. They are, you know, a straight line from wherever the gun barrel is, and you can't individually adjust the turrets to have them cross their gun lines. And the reason you want them to cross is you want to have all of your shells land in one block, or as tight of a block as you can, and that's the advantage in the game that manual has over automatic FCS. Okay, so now we've gone from the automatic one to the manual one, and the manual one is quite a bit different. I'll show you how it's different. So first of all, again, remember, enable your turret drive assist. So with manual, unlike automatic, you don't just click. You actually have to press the keys to move your guns, right? So if you press Q, you'll notice that all the guns turn over to one direction. E, they go all to the other direction, right? Now, once you get over there, in order to move them, you press A and D keys to get the guns to aim in a certain direction. So let's say here, I'm going to bring my guns back. Now, you'll notice with manual, I can cross my gun lines, and now I can put shots. They're sort of in a block there. I can put them all into that little block. And with manual, if you can target the right amount of angle and distance and whatnot, your shots are generally going to be more accurate. You're going to be able to get them to group a little bit better. There we go. So I'm starting to get hits. Now, of course, in order to increase angle of your guns, you press the W key. Decrease angle, press the S key. If you want to make fine-tune adjustments, because sometimes you do have to fine-tune your adjustment, because if you just press it with the TDA on, if you just press W and S, you'll notice the angle changes very quickly, see it? So if you want to make fine-tune adjustments, what you can do is you hold down the Shift key, and you can make very small adjustments with the W and S keys, right? And that'll allow you to fine-tune your aim so that you are going to be able to adjust your guns correctly. See, I'm not crossing them right there. There we go. So yeah, with the ability to cross your shells, you're able to get them to generally land a little bit better. Although do keep in mind that some of the dispersion issues that you see me having in-game right now does happen to do a lot with the fact that my sailors are level 1 and you know, their abilities are relatively quite poor. Still, generally speaking, with manual, it is a better way to aim and shoot in the game, although much harder and a lot more demanding on you as a player. Still, if you can master it, manual will eventually be a lot faster, and it'll be a lot easier for you to accomplish your mission. And let's talk a little bit about nations. Now, my knowledge about nations is not as complete as it was 5 years ago. Some of the stuff I know is probably a little bit dated, maybe even a little bit out of date. So you're probably gonna have to maybe read the forums or read some other things, a little bit more guides and stuff like that for like the best possible information. I will still share with you the things I do know. So let's sort of go one by one, nation by nation. I'll point out all the strengths and weaknesses and also things that you see on the webpage, like this info sheet, that might have gotten kind of wrong. So for example, USN. USN is jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. They do have some of the best CVs in the game, if I remember correctly. Although their battleships are okay, they are not the greatest range-wise. Yeah, and in terms of AA, this is another thing. Their AA is not that great. I mean, the range on the AA guns are not very good. They're relatively short range. Although they do have, according to the website, the best AAW. But like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the sailors, the AAW stat is the automated AA guns. And by the time you reach the high levels, I mean, all the aircraft are AAW immune. So that's not what you're going to be dealing with there. So I would say that if you're talking about USN, if you're looking for a good CV nation to pick up, USN will probably suit you well. Although for battleships, you might want to pick other nations. Royal Navy. Now there's a good battleship nation. Battleships are pretty durable, and they're one of the few nations, I think they are the only nation, I think, in the game right now, that you can actually armor effectively, to actually have these armor horse setups. Royal Navy guns do tend to be, in a lot of cases, except for near sort of the end, they tend to have less range, but they do hit hard as trucks, although reload is a little bit on the slow end. Still, a good battleship nation if you want to play. That's the Royal Navy. Japanese Navy. Oh god. What do I remember about Japanese battleships? They do have really good AA. They have these crazy long range AA guns. Not the most damaging AA guns, but they do have crazy long range on their AA guns. In terms of armor, yeah, don't do that on the Japanese battleships. We used to make jokes about them being made out of paper. So probably not a good idea. And while the website describes them as being, having sort of a lot of CVs and stuff like that, not really a great CV nation. Other nations, to my knowledge, do it better. Cough the USN. Okay, German Kriegsmarine, usually the longest range in the game in terms of their main guns. Their AA is really serviceable, but ships tend to be pretty fragile all the way around. The German ones just have these glass jaws on their ships. So not really all that great durability wise, but again, that range in AA does help, right? They're able to blind the enemy to their area because they can knock down the scout planes, and they do have the long range gun, so they can poke away, right? French Navy, the Marine Nationale, ridiculous range on their AA guns. That I remember for sure. The AA guns just spray shells out miles and miles and miles. So very, very good AA. Although, range-wise, they tend to be relatively short-legged on their guns, but they do pack a lot of firepower. They have a lot of shells, and they do hit pretty darn hard. Their ships are also reasonably fast, and that's pretty much, I think, the French trait. Russian Navy, well, I never played the Russian Navy when I played the game, so I actually don't really know all that much about them. I know they have pretty good range, and they do hit pretty hard with their guns. And aside from that, I'm not really all too knowledgeable about the Russians. Sorry, the Russian Navy just wasn't my kind of thing when I played this game. And finally, you have the Regia Marina, the Italian Navy. The Italian Navy is very interesting. Their ships don't have the most powerful guns in the game. Their AA is sort of trash, but their guns have very, very low angles. Low angles is not a bad thing, because what that means is that you can shoot out to quite a good range, and your shells are just flat, and it's relatively easy to hit enemy ships with the Italian battleships. So I would say Italian battleships not that bad at all for people who maybe are to be at this aggressive style of play. Forgot to talk about carriers. Wow, like I said, for me there's a bit of a knowledge gap there. I only played USN and German carriers when I played this game, and like I said, the USN do have pretty good and very, very solid carriers. The Germans, not so much. But then, unfortunately, 3 new nations came out with their CV lines, and I just wasn't really there to fight them. So, unfortunately, I'm not able to really give you information about the French, Soviet, and Italian Navy CVs. You probably want to look up guides on the forums or something about those nations to see how their carriers will perform. Anyhow, I think that is everything that's important for somebody who's just starting Navyfield, although there's a good chance I probably missed a thing or two. So if you do have additional questions about the game, ask them in the comment section below, or just come join us on Discord and, ask all the questions there. And of course, if we happen to raid Navyfield and play some blitz battles, please join us. It should be a lot of fun. Anyways, folks, that does it for me today. There should be a World of Warships battle coming out tomorrow. It's a carrier battle. I fought against a very, very good CV player. Somebody who, that was definitely a challenge. And I would love to show you that battle, but that should be coming tomorrow. Aside from all that, folks, take care, have yourselves a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again really, really soon.